Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale, and the Electro Wizard Challenge is out in the game, and today I've invited on two pros to come on over to my clan. Well, actually one of them's in my clan, Trainer Nick and Surgical Goblin, to share their favorite Electro Wizard Challenge decks. Both of these decks won 12 wins on the first try. Trainer Nick is 3-0 in completing 12 wins. Now obviously, a lot of that has to do with his tremendous skill, same with Surgical Goblin. But anyway, I've had both of these guys send me over all their best tips to succeed with this decks, and hopefully whether you've already gotten to 12 wins or you're looking to get that 12th win, these two decks will provide you an option for doing so. Now, the cool thing that I can say for the first time in really ever is both of these decks include legendary cards, but it doesn't matter because you can use every card in the game for the Electro Wizard Challenge. So this deck's going to include the Miner, the Lava Hound, and of course the Electro Wizard. In Surgical's deck, it's just going to be the Miner and the Electrical Wizard. So this is obviously a Lava Hound beatdown deck, and the Surgical Goblin deck is going to be a Miner control deck. And I'll tell you what, both of them are really effective, as you'll see throughout today's video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get to the actual tips to lead you to success with these decks. I want you guys to walk away feeling super confident and refreshed in a way that you actually have a shot at doing this. So I personally have not even played an Electro Wizard Challenge right now. It's 8 a.m. at the time of this audio recording here on Friday, and I'm off work today, which is absolutely amazing, and I set my alarm, nice early wake up time, because I knew that my guys, Surgical aka Frank, and Nick would be ready for me in the morning, and they did not disappoint. So I am just logging on right out of bed, and we're going to share some of their tips with you guys. So this is just a Lava Hound, a classic Lava Hound deck. It has the Electro Wizard in it, but otherwise, one thing to note about this deck is it does have Tombstone, and that's super important. You really need the Tombstone in the meta right now, even for the Electro Wizard Challenge, because a lot of people, still the majority of decks, are still playing Elite Barbarians, and with a Lava Hound deck, it can leave you somewhat susceptible to those really strong ground pushes backed by or fronted by the Elite Barbarians. So you need something to buy you some time, and the Tombstone does a great job of doing that. So Tombstone in Trader Nick's deck, always keep that Tombstone down. When you have it in your hand, you should be playing the Tombstone. So you'll notice that Nick does just that here, is when he has the Tombstone available and he's not defending, obviously, he's going to go ahead and make sure he plays it. The one cool thing about this deck, about the Electro Wizard in general, is he's a great defensive card. So keep that in mind when you're playing. Your best defensive combination with this deck, believe it or not, is going to be the Tombstone comboed with the Electro Wiz. Now, when you play the Lava Hound in one of these big beatdown decks, you have to be ready to be punished in the opposite lane immediately. Most good players, as soon as they see that Lava Hound, they're going to commit at least 4 elixir, at least with a Hog Rider, sometimes even more Elite Barbarians or Elite Barbarians and even an Ice Spirit, something as high as 7 elixir, so you have to be ready for that in your opposite lane of your Lava Hound. So don't play the Lava Hound without expecting to see a push in the opposite lane. We'll get more into the offensive philosophy behind that deck, but I want to go ahead and alternate decks today, try something a little bit different instead of just doing one for 10 minutes and then another for 10 minutes. So we're going to hop right into Surgical Goblin's deck. Now, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you probably realize that Surgical Goblin's been on quite a bit. I met him, quite a while ago now, and he's been on the channel a lot, and he started his new channel, and he just hit 16,000 subscribers. So make sure you check that out and wish him a congratulations. He's such a great player and a great guy too. So I'll include that link in the description below, guys. But let's talk about his deck. We're gonna again focus more defensively on the first replay, then we'll swap it over and talk about offense on Nick's deck. Sound good? Let's go. So defensively with this deck, well, this deck is all about defense. Now, mind you, Trainer Nick, Surgical Goblin is at the top of your screen, not the bottom. I know sometimes it can be a little bit weird when they're at the top. I don't know why, because I guess you're always at the bottom. So we're gonna be looking at it from Surgical Goblin's vantage point at the top. Now look at this deck here. It's a very control-y deck. Now the first thing you're going to notice is 2 spells, Log and Poison. You can see he has them both in his hand right now, but it is worth noting no zap spell. So that's pretty cool, right? No zap spell because you have the Electro Wizard. So it kind of has a little bit of a built-in spell utility. Now, it's not exactly the same because you can't just transport the Electro Wizard to exactly where you want him to fall on the map, but when he does get placed on the map, especially defensively, he does have that AoE splash zap effect, which is really cool and unique. I like when the Clash team adds unique abilities into any deck. By the way, guys, quick service announcement here. I'm having a big giveaway that I meant to mention at the beginning of this recording, but I hate editing, so I'm just going to mention it now. But we're giving away $500 worth of gift cards. Be sure to enter, guys. We're going to go ahead and draw those on Christmas Day. I'll include the link for you guys below. Maybe it will give you guys some gems, and who knows, open some legendary chests. Maybe you'll get the Electro Wizard once he's released in-game. So, back to this deck. Surgical Goblin at the top, doing pretty well here. He has the Archers as a graveyard counter. He also has the Ice Golem as a graveyard counter. Now, the Barbarian Hut is going to be a really important part of this deck. You notice that he doesn't have, obviously, Inferno Tower. He doesn't have Elite Barbarians, all the common big tank counters in the game. So he's going to rely very heavily on that Barbarian Hut to be his tank counter. And I'll tell you what, guys, Barbarian Hut remains a really good and probably underused card in the game, at least in my opinion. I think that it's so frustrating to go against as a Hog Rider player and even as a beatdown player, as a tank player. And guess what? Even against Lava Hound decks, surprisingly, Barbarian Hut actually does a pretty good job in a pinch of distracting those pups and defending against the Lava Hound. I mean, it's obviously not your ideal counter, but it does pretty well. The Barbarian Hut, I mean, you have to invest a lot for 7 elixir, but you can actually get a lot out of it defensively and sometimes even offensively. So besides that, he has the poison spell, mostly going to be used offensively, sometimes in combination with the miner. Oftentimes the poison is just going to be used to chip away at your opponent's tower while you can get some additional value at the same time. For example, if your opponent has their Electro Wizard in range of the tower you're targeting, you can use the poison on both of them, doing a good job. You can see Surgical doing that quite a bit in this match here. So now that we've talked about almost all the cards in the deck, I'm sure you guys are starting to get a sense of just how defensively oriented and really, you know, forgive me using the same word over and over again, but just how control-y this deck is. I mean, you can set the tempo of this match. You can use the Ice Golem and the Electro Wiz in tandem to stop a really strong push. Look at this push, by the way, in the left lane. Coming at Surgical Goblin is 2 Elite Barbarians and a Hog Rider. The Barbarian Hut, the Mega Minion, and the Log used very well there to, you know, not only save his Barbarian Hut, you know, it takes some damage there, but not take any crown damage on top of that, and the opponent invested 10 elixir on that push. So definitely you can take advantage of really aggressive opponents, you know, expounding 10 elixir at the river like that, and really make them pay for it. So definitely a very good match here, and a good example of how a control deck is supposed to work here by Surgical Goblin. Now let's go ahead and switch things over, and we'll talk about offensive philosophy and combinations with the Lava Hound deck. So where is it here? By the way, I've had both of these guys share their 12th win as well, so just, you know, as proof that they did hit 12 wins with these decks. But hopping into this next match here, you can see the opponent, Nick's opponent here at the top, Nick is at the bottom, plays the Hog Rider right in the middle of the river to target that Tombstone. Now, why did they do that? I was actually talking to Marcel, trying to get some tips to improve my game. That's going to be in a future video, by the way, with a very special guest. I'm just going to go ahead. Should I name him? I don't know. Should I name the special guest? Oh, geez, I kind of want to keep it a surprise, but now that I've said it, I kind of have to say it. Anyway, so Cam Sucks at Gaming joined me and Marcel P for some pro tips on why are we losing. So basically, we had him kind of really kick our ass, excuse my language, and then he told us what we did wrong. And one of the things that I was doing wrong is I was playing my Hog Rider in the lane, even if my opponent had a defensive unit on the board anywhere. And Marcel said you definitely have to play your Hog Rider at the river if you can't, or excuse me, in the middle of the river, like the opponent did to start out this match, if you can't avoid the defensive structure. And I guess just out of habit, you know, it makes a lot of sense now, but I guess out of habit, I just always played my Hog Rider in the lane, or even to the left of the lane, if I was in the left lane or the right of the lane, you know, almost like a piggy push positioning, even if I wasn't doing a push, and I knew who was going to end up going for the defensive target. But Marcel said, no, that's a bad move, because you're going to be taking 1 or 2 extra shots from the tower if you play the Hog Rider in the lane, and that makes perfect sense. So, you know, I was kind of thinking about it like, oh, but now he'll be in range of both towers, but that's just not the way it is. If you actually slow it down and watch, a Hog Rider in the lane, for example, right there, is going to be taking more hits from the tower than a Hog Rider placed right in the center of the arena of the map. So just a little tip for you guys there. Now this deck, you can see Nick doing what he talked about, or what we talked about on the first replay offensively. He is using his Tombstone whenever he has it up, making sure that the opponent isn't going to be able to punish him too badly once he plays that Lava Hound. And obviously the advantage of playing the Tombstone before the Lava Hound is you already have 3 elixir worth of defense on the board before you play that expensive 7 elixir Lava Hound. So now we're going to do an ideal push here, not get a ton of damage, but you can see the Fireball takes away the Skarmy, and then all these minions in pups are going to do a decent amount of damage. The Zap spell, very well played there. That was actually about as good of a defense as you can do against that sort of combination. Mega Minion, Lava Hound, Fireball. I mean, he threw a lot at him. Minions as well. So now we're going to, and by the way, noteworthy that Nick is playing the Minions and the Mega Minions, so because he's playing so much air, it's just even more important to really rely on that Tombstone as some ground support. So the Tombstone and the Electro Wizard are going to be your main defenses, and then you're going to want to combo them offensively, maybe if you can, with a nice little Hound push. The Electro Wiz on a counter push isn't as effective in this deck as it is in Surgical Goblin's deck, because let's face it, Surgical Goblin's deck needs a lot less time to kind of set up. Now here's another 10 elixir investment coming in the right lane, and look at that, Electro Wizard and Skarmy totally shuts it down. So if you know your opponent has Elite Barbarians and a Hog Rider especially, make sure you have Tombstone on the board or up in rotation, and certainly Skarmy as well. Electro Wizard helps additionally. So your main offensive combination, if you guys aren't familiar with Hound decks, I'm sure most of you are by now, but essentially your main offensive combination is going to be the Lava Hound, and then right before the Lava Hound is about to pop, you're going to send in your Miner to the tower. The Miner is going to distract and essentially tank the tower for your pups, and then you're going to use your Fireball to counter whatever your opponent plays to counter your Miner pup combination. So in this case, it's Skeleton Army. In some cases, it's Minion Horde or Minion or even Electro Wiz. Remember, guys, that tournament standard Fireball can one-shot take out an Electro Wizard, and that's a good, hard, even counter there, 4 for 4 elixir, so don't be afraid to make that counter. Obviously, Nick also has Fireball for defensive reasons, so don't be afraid to use Fireball on defense as well, and keep in mind there, Fireball can be very effective, especially in the Electro Wiz challenge, because of that even hard counter 4 for 4. So another good win there for Trainer Nick. Trainer Nick is absolutely tearing it up with this deck. Did I mention that he's 3-0, meaning not that he hasn't lost a match, but that he's won 3 Electro Wizard challenges in a row. Talk about really rubbing it in for the rest of us who have not even gotten one win with the Electro Wizard. So now on the Surgical Goblin deck, you know, it's kind of in a way a chip type deck, and a lot of control decks are. Certainly your 2 main sources of offense in this deck against Surgical at the top of your screen is going to be good counter pushes, A, and B, just chipping away with the Miner and the Poison spell. Now he got a lot of value out of this push coming up right here. The Miner is on that Elixir Pump, takes down the Elixir Pump, and then survives, and the Mega Minion reaches the tower there, and look at all this damage he's going to get out of that very first play of the entire match. Talk about a great opening play. And the opponent, you know, it was really an unfortunate situation for him because he didn't have any good counters to that Mega Minion in hand. Look at what he has. He didn't have the Fireball at the time, so he's just kind of sitting there on his fingers or thumbs or what on his hands. I don't know what you'd say in Clash Royale lingo. He's he's sitting there and doing nothing because he had nothing to do. And then he uses the giant defensively. Just a rocky start, unfortunately, here for Captain Vortex. He does kind of pick things up a little bit as we go along, but you can see he has to essentially sacrifice this giant as well. He tries to combo him with the Mega Minion, but remember what we talked about earlier in this video, guys, right? The Barbarian Hut is a lethal counter to tanks. If you're having trouble with tanks and beatdown decks, well, ground beatdown decks, go ahead and consider making a spot in your deck for the Barbarian Hut. Now, it's an expensive card, so it's kind of easier said than done, right? Ash, just make a spot for a 7 elixir card, but trust me, maybe if you're playing Inferno Tower and still struggling with good beatdown players who have that zap always ready to reset the Inferno Tower, or now with the Electro Wizard, maybe consider adding in the Barbarian Hut. See if you have success with it. See if you like the substitution. I think that you might like it. And right now in this match, you can see just how often Surgical Goblin is using the poison spell, and the opponent makes a really big mistake there. Playing that elixir pump again in range of the tower just allows Surgical Goblin to cycle back to the poison, and he's going to use it again here, and the opponent flashes up the sad face because it's a bummer. Not only is he going to lose his crown tower pretty soon, but he also loses that 6 elixir investment into the elixir pump. So things going very, very well here for Surgical Goblin at this point. The opponent decides to go ahead and try to push the other lane, but Surge is ready for him with that log. Log buys him more time and does a decent amount of damage to the Elite Barbarians. I mean, they have a lot of HP, but they don't have a ton of HP, so log definitely helps. Also, Fireball is a pretty decent counter to Elite Barbarians, even though Surge isn't necessarily playing Fireball, but it's worth noting that even though Fireball doesn't kill Elite Barbarians, it leaves them in that threshold to be killed by your crown tower. You just have to make sure that they don't, add an ice golem or some sort of a tank in front of them for protection. So let's go ahead and put on the 12th win here by Trainer Nick. We can see how he pulled off getting his 3rd Electro Wizard card. I mean, wow, what a guy. Already has a level 2 Electro Wizard. Consider me jealous. Hopefully, as soon as I stop recording this video and do a little bit of Christmas shopping, then I can go ahead and sit down, relax, and get a little Electro Wizard challenge of my own, and hopefully walk away with a card or two. Let's just focus on the first win first. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So expertly countered Elite Barbarians there with the Skarmy. Nick has to use the minions as well, but that's why this deck has minions as well as Skarmy. He was ready for that zap spell, still able to get a pretty lucrative push here in the left lane, and his opponent here forced to use the Fireball Zap combination to take down that Mega Minion. Otherwise, the tower would have been down. He has that Electro Wizard, but Nick is ready. He plays his Miner right on that Electro Wizard, and then the pups are going to do a significant amount of damage to this tower here. So a very good job defending the Elite Barbarians and then making a pretty decent counter push by Nick. And you can see these guys still pretty much tied. Nick actually has a small advantage on Elixir, so things are looking really well for Nick early on. So I did want to talk a little bit about this challenge. Like I said, I really hope that Supercell makes this a staple of new legendary card releases. I think it's really awesome. I know some people are kind of complaining that it's a grand challenge cost to enter into the Electro Wizard challenge, but truthfully, just to be fair, you have to kind of note the risk reward. I mean, there has to be a pretty good measure of risk and reward for anything. So if the reward is a legendary card, I mean, it's only natural that the risk is going to have to be pretty substantial. It's a guaranteed legendary card before the card is even released, which I guess isn't super relevant, but to be honest with you guys, if they were going to release the card in the same fashion, but only make it cost the same as a classic challenge, they wouldn't be able to give a guaranteed Electro Wizard on the win. It would be more of, in my mind, a chance to get the Electro Wizard on a 12 win or in any chest, albeit a very small chance. So that's kind of the give and the take. We get the benefit of, if you get 12 wins, you can guarantee yourself an Electro Wizard, and what it would have to be otherwise if they reduce the price just to keep the economy in line. I mean, there is an economy even in video games, right? Would have to be just a chance, maybe a 10% chance at getting an Electro Wizard and no other legendary card, something like that, to make the cost actually kind of square with the value. Otherwise, you'll get really good clans and really good players out there continually farming max challenges challenges and maxing out their card, and that's going to cost a lot of money and kind of skew and make the economy kind of funky in the game. So you always have to remember that there's more to this game and more to the economy of the game than just what everybody necessarily wants. So if you want a guaranteed legendary card, you're definitely going to have to pay for it in terms of, you know, going for the grand challenge price. And if you don't want a guarantee, you just want a small chance at it, well, maybe that's another option they can do. Perhaps they can do an Electro Wizard Challenge Lite for the next legendary card. Obviously, it wouldn't be called the Electro Wizard Challenge, but you guys get what I'm saying. And just make it a small percent chance at getting the legendary card at a discounted entrance fee. But something tells me people wouldn't be happy with that either. I think people want a guaranteed chance at getting, or a guarantee of getting, the Electro Wizard. But anyway, guys, forgive the digression as we get back to the point here. And this third deck, that's right, a bonus third deck for you guys who have stayed all the way till the end of this video, is going to be another one of Surgical Goblin's creations. And this one is an Electro Wizard Elite Barbarian Graveyard deck, and he loves this one as well. I'm not going to include the entire strategy advice for this deck because he actually breaks it all down on his YouTube channel. I'll include the link below to Surgical Goblin's YouTube, and you can go ahead and watch his video where he talks about his favorite, this deck, Electro Wizard Challenge deck. It's a really good graveyard deck. If you guys are experienced and good graveyard players, you should be able to have success with this deck as well. Now, Surgical also won a 12-win Electro Wizard Challenge. That's a mouthful. I don't know why I struggle with it. Maybe because it's early in the morning. But he also won a challenge with this deck that you're seeing right now, and it's a really powerful deck. You can see right off the bat there, gets a tower down with that Bowler Graveyard combo. Electro Wiz playing a similar role, mostly defensively in this deck, but also can be comboed into a nice counter push behind that Bowler, and then you drop that Graveyard. You have a lot coming at your opponent, and there's just a lot to react to. You almost force the opponent to play something at the Electro Wizard in the Bowler that's going to get through both of them. There's not a lot of cards that can do so, while at the same time dealing with that Graveyard. So a lot going on, and definitely a good mix, a good, nice, strong, stout graveyard deck for the Electro Wizard Challenge. So already a tower down there, and now all Surgical has to do, by the way, this is his 12th win with this one as well. Geez, like both of these guys are racking up these 12-win challenges. I'm so jealous, and here I am talking to you guys, and here you are listening to me. Do you guys play, by the way, while you listen, or do you just watch the screen? Interested to hear about that. I know sometimes I get comments saying that, hey Ash, I always like play a whole challenge while watching your videos. It's just something that I like to do. And then I'm like, well, wait, you don't watch the gameplay? I mean, that's kind of interesting, but hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess, right? So Surge in danger of losing his right tower here. In fact, he is going to lose it with that zap spell, allows those skeletons to get in there, just barely taking that tower down. Surge is mad, and you do not want a mad Surgical Goblin on your hands, so he's going to have to go ahead and switch focuses to the opposite lane. Now, he knows that his opponent had to expend a lot of elixir to take down his right tower, so he does have the elixir advantage right now, and he has a Bowler right now on the arena. So it's going to be Bowler, Electro Wizard coming down the left lane. That's going to stop everything left coming at him, including those fire spirits spawned by the furnace, and there goes the Graveyard spell. Now, he has freeze, but he chooses not to use the freeze spell. He knows he doesn't need it. He has the Bowler, he has the Electro Wizard, he has counters everywhere, doesn't overplay the freeze spell, and that's very important to note with that deck. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I'll go ahead and show you this deck just in case you're curious, but be sure to go ahead and show Mr. Surgical Goblin some love over on his YouTube channel as well. I'll include the links in the description below. Wishing you nothing but the best of luck if you guys decide to play the Electro Wizard Challenge. I hope this video helps you out, and I hope you have a little bit more knowledge walking away from this video than you did walking into the video, especially regarding these two decks. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.